guys and dolls, welcome back to my channel, welcome back to the Sub Hub, and for those of you who have not been here before, how you doing? Okay, so today's video is going to be a longer video, so that's why I'm talking kind of fast. Please comment, like, subscribe, don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you always know when I'm posting, because you know YouTube ain't gonna let you know if you don't hit the notification bell. And thank you to all the new subscribers. I do have to say that I always kind of forget sometimes to tell you that I appreciate every single one of you. Now, without further delay, this video is going to be about Saturn. Before I start, I just want to give a warning, a fair warning. The information is heavy. You may not agree. I'm here to inform you of what's about Saturn, about the things that they are not teaching you in school, that they are not telling you in the public, that they are not putting on the news, that they are not updating anyone on the planet about. So unless you go looking for this information, you're not going to find it, and I want my video to be one of the videos that helps inform and wake you up. Now, I've already had a comment, oh my gosh, I've had a comment from someone that has told me that because one of my videos, they kind of, it woke something up in them, and now they are more aware, and that is all I've ever wanted in doing these videos. So I'm super excited about sharing this information. I've gathered it, some from David Icke, some from online research, and a book that has been written by a very reputable man that's been taken out of circulation. I'm just going to dive right in. Again, the warning, you may not like what you hear. This may not be the video for you. If some of the content, if you get to it and you start listening to it, you know, I understand if you can't continue to watch. It's going to get a little bit heated, and it's going to surprise and shock some of you. So just be aware. Okay, so Saturn. I'm going to start off with the information based in science about Saturn. And then I'm going to go into how it affects us in society and as individuals. This is the book, The Ringmakers of Saturn, and this book was written by Norman R. Berggren. He recently died. I want to say he died in his 90s. Maybe not recently, but yeah, it's not long. It hasn't been long since he passed away. But okay, a little bit about Norman Berggren, and a lot of people, they don't want to admit or believe in certain documentation or books, but he's an actual person, and you can look him up if you like. He is an aeronautical engineer. He was born August 4th in 1921. He was a father and husband. Now I'm going to go through some because there's a whole page that lists all of the titles he's ever had in his career. I was flabbergasted because there's a lot, and this is only a few. He was educated in Cornell University and LaSalle University. He did a postgraduate study in Stanford. He had continuing education in Foothill College in 1982. He served in the Navy. His career included titles such as thermodynamicist in Douglas Aircraft Company. He started the Berggren Companies. They were research engineer construction properties. He was an aero research scientist in Ames Laboratory. He worked for the Lockheed Missile and Space Company in California. He was a supervisor flight tester. He was a manager flight tester. He was staff scientist of the Satellite Systems Applications. He was director of Management Information Systems, and he worked and monitored Voyager 1 and 2. And that's very important. You need to know that this man worked on Voyager 1 and 2. Yes, the Voyager 1 and 2 associated with NASA. So if you have any issues with this man, history doesn't speak, and I guess if you think that nothing about NASA is true or believable, then I guess you can discredit him if you like. We could see when we looked up into the sky in ancient times. Saturn has been associated with omens of political and daily life. And these are the Saturn mysteries. So this is from the 1800s, a little bit of information. I need to tell you this because you need some type of a base or background on Saturn in order for me to like get you to the present. So, alrighty, the rings around Saturn weren't always there. Some say it was because telescopes were not as advanced as now, and the rings vary in thickness, and they were able to see that in the 1800s. Shiny or luminous points were detected within the rings near the end of the 18th century. In 1917, a bright luminous source, so bright it was called a star, was observed tearing through the ring and traveling very fast, taking up everything in its path, just going through. And it was going so fast they couldn't even, I guess, try to mathematically detect how fast it was. But the size of Saturn. Now, let's go to the actual size of this planet. Saturn is huge. In layman's terms, it's about 365 planet Earths balled into one. So let your brain wrap around that for a second. Saturn didn't always have rings. As different scientists and scholars studied Saturn, trying to get the perfect calculations on how big Saturn's rings were. At the time of viewing, they were spot on. So they would make measurements, they would look in the telescopes, blah, 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 get their measurements, and they were right at that exact time. And then maybe an hour later, they would change. I added this information just in case you're curious. Saturn has a lot of little moons, and all of these moons are not completely round. Some are misshapen, oval. They're different shapes. Because they've seen them for so many years and studied them, they've given these moons names, and some of the names are Mimas, Enceladus, Tethys, Dion, Rhea, Titan, Latitudinal, and Phoebe. So just in case you ever hear these names, you know that they have already named the moons of Saturn. Okay, now to get a better understanding of just how huge Saturn's rings are, this. The width of one ring, this is one ring around Saturn, is equivalent to about an 18-hour non-stop flight between Montreal, Canada, and Melbourne, Australia. Now, I couldn't wrap my brain around how big one of the rings is. I can't. Alrighty, so the luminous objects and sources were observed to move and travel from ring to ring. A number of these sources appear on Voyager 1 imagery. The picture in the book shows a light at the outermost portion of the ring, letting out exhaust. Okay, it lets out exhaust, adding to the width of the ring. So, what he was observing was a vehicle, and unfortunately when you read the book, because this is a book, I was able to download the PDF, so if you're interested, you're not going to be able to buy it because they're selling this book between $500 and $600, sometimes way, way more, thousands of dollars in order to get a copy. So I wish I had a copy because I would be showing you the pictures, but you can get the PDF online. That's how I was able to read the book. They're saying that in studying the movements of how the rings are made, they were able to see that there's a vehicle actually within the rings, letting out exhaust, adding to what we see or what we know as the rings around Saturn. This vehicle creating the rings of Saturn is slender in form, but from calculations, it's about 5,600 kilometers, which equals to 3,480 miles, equivalent to the airline distance between New York and London. They are the ones who are coming up with these calculations. This NASA scientist came up with this calculation, so you gotta argue with them, not with what I'm telling you. Because all of this was being seen through Voyager 1 and 2, there is no up-close, minute details of these vehicles. Now, I don't believe that. I believe that with the technology we have now, they are most definitely able to see every aspect of the vehicle now. But of course, they're not going to tell us that. This is a very old book, and this is what Berggren was able to determine at the time he wrote this book. Now, there is, like I said, no up-close, minute details of these vehicles, why they are there, what is giving them propulsion, etc. But Berggren saw as these vehicles emitted the exhaust, adding to the rings, there was an arm out to do the work. At the bottom of the arm, he could see a bulge that appeared to be donut-shaped, or a toroid. Now, a toroid, I know if you're not into construction or you don't know anything about machinery, you're not going to know what a toroid is. It looks like a donut, and it has wire coiled around it. So because he was used to seeing these vehicles, he was a part of maintaining them, sending them out into space, obviously, you know, probably moon trips, all of that. They were used to seeing those mechanical arms pick up rocks and bring them back to Earth. I mean, come on, you can use your imagination to know he, if anybody, was going to be able to see what it is, and that it was actually a vehicle. Okay, so a toroid through which the arm passes. So that's that little donut shape is where the arm would pass. And it's machinery he was looking at, and the toroid is what made him believe that that is an actual arm and machinery helping guide that vehicle and emit the exhaust. So if there is a toroid toroid present and indicates the arm is acting as a conductor carrying electricity. So that's what he was able to prove. These vehicles move around, they don't stay within one ring, so they can add exhaust to any of the rings. Some sort of plasma is being used by the vehicles to fuel them. Now, to further explain the electromagnetic state of the vehicles, you need to turn to Saturn itself. Its outermost atmosphere has distinct latitudinal stratification. What is latitudinal stratification? It's a division of water column into layers with different densities caused by different temperatures or salinity or both. Saturn itself is a massive electromagnetic energy conductor. So the planet is actually helping to fuel these vehicles. Again, these are his deductions. Evidence is 100% positive that propulsive vehicles generate the rings of Saturn. The emissions are profuse and blend in so well with the surroundings that recognizing it is difficult. They appear to come in different sizes. It's safe to say ring size communicates vehicle size, and the vehicle, one of the vehicles within the rings of Saturn, is the width of Earth. These vehicles are vast in number. Their legion continues to grow. They have been growing for years, since before Borgram noticed them and after, and these vehicles are able to orbit Saturn as easily as humans breathe on Earth. Okay, so there's a lot more information. You would definitely have to read the book. Again, the book is The Ringmakers of Saturn by Berggren. If you're interested, it's so interesting, it's so amazing. But now I'm going to continue. This is how Saturn affects us in today's life. Hopefully, from what I've given you for the information for the planet, you can now push this all together and come to the understanding that Saturn does affect us, and it is a powerful conduit in what is happening here on Earth. Saturn is known as the old sun, the dark sun, the lord of the rings, so to speak. Ancient sun gods were not being associated with the sun of today, but of the old sun, Saturn. Saturn was in our orbit, and it was so big that we considered it to be a sun. Saturn has always been a symbol of an eye. Remember, I'm going to leave attached my moon video so that you will see what I mean by the evil eye. A lot of times the simplest form of the evil eye is one big circle and a dot in the middle. So that in ancient times is what we depicted as the evil eye, which is why some cultures are known for their evil eye symbols. At some point there was a huge explosion on Saturn, creating illumination, caused a crescent shape as the planets orbited around one another when Saturn was in Earth's orbit. This is why you find the disk and crescent in ancient times and in the following places. In Islam, you see a star and sun crescent on their flag for one, and other places. In Mesopotamia, they are the bull gods, and it's the bull with Saturn between his horns. There is a bull right here in New York on Wall Street, the big bull. There you see all of these depictions in our history textbooks. There are winged goddesses with Saturn above their head, the round circle in the middle between their wings. The Great Seal of the United States, it's the eagle with the circle on top. It's in the House of Windsor. It's in the symbol for the United Nations. It's within the Eagle of Rome, and it's again the flying disc of Egypt. If you know about Egyptology and all their symbolism, it's in the flying disc of Egypt. It's in today's logos and media or entertainment. Gateway, as we all know, Gateway, the computer company, they have cubes. The Gateway portal cubes, they're black and they're cubes. Hellraiser, the Hellraiser movies, the cube, remember the gold cube, that was a Gateway. Star Trek, this was in the Next Generation. Remember the Borg, the Resistance is Futile. In one of those episodes, what planet does the Borg ship pass? Saturn, of course, with its rings. In cars, we have the Saturn cars with the logo. It's round, and it's got the ring around the round shape. It looks like a cowboy hat, but it's not a cowboy hat. That's not how they meant it. The black cube of Mecca, they circle around it in concentric circles. When they go to pray at the black cube of Mecca, they are instructed to pray in concentric circles around the cube. In music, one of Madonna's Super Bowl performances, I can't remember when, there were two male models on either side of her. One had the crescent moon and the star, and one had the 6 pointed star, which is basically two inverted pyramids, however you want to draw it, but the 6 pointed star is another symbol of Saturn. It's also in Freemasonry. It's all over the place in Freemasonry. Saturn is in our astrology. So it's related to Capricorn, which is the goat. In ancient times, Pan was always depicted as what he was half goat, half human. He was always drunk, playing music, frolicking about in a lascivious nature with wood nymphs. That's how Pan was viewed in ancient times, and he is a direct symbol of Saturn. Today it's Baphomet, which is highly appreciated by the rich and elite, who are usually connected to secret societies. Now, Beyonce has been shown to wear a Baphomet ring in one of her music performances. Lady Gaga has been known to wear the Baphomet costume. Lady Kat Von D had an inspired wedding of Baphomet, and Philippine de Rothschild, a very super elite, wealthy woman, also wears jewelry. She usually wears a brooch depicting Baphomet. Now, one of the most extreme secret societies is called the Fraternitas Saturni, the Brotherhood of Saturn. This one is based in Germany, and I'm not saying that any of these people are associated with that particular one. I'm just making the connections of the symbolism in today's society that you actually see as well, or can see if you know how to look for the signs. Now, this one is based in Germany. It embodies a hidden side of Saturn worship. They focus on the sex magical, darker satanic side. They are most unabashedly a Luciferian organization in modern Western occult revival. They practice the most detailed sexual occultism of any lodge and represent a blend of astrological cosmology, neo-Gnostic demonology, sexual occultism, and Freemasonic organizational principles. Now, Saturn is also symbolized by the number 8, and it is also equal to the magic cube or the magic square, whichever you want to call it. And I am going to show you what the magic cube looks like and how they come about these numbers. This is the actual magic cube. That's what it looks like if you want to look it up. And the numbers associated with Saturn are 3, 9, 15, and 45. This is because each row and column of the magic square contains 3 numbers. The square contains 9 numbers total, ranging from 1 to 9. Each row, column, and diagonal adds up to 15. In numerology, you would add the 1 and a 5, which is equal to 6. All of the numbers in the square add up to 45. So if you add 1 and 5, vertically and horizontally, they add up to 6, which is equal to... and that is the frequency of Saturn. Now, other symbolism in, again, where your eyes and my eyes have seen in history and culture and pictures, the black and white floors of royalty and nobility and government. If you look at any royal pictures of today, weddings of the indoor churches, you look on the ground, you see those black and white tiles. That's what it signifies, their connection with Saturn. The 6 pointed star, which is basically just one erect triangle and then one inverted triangle. Now, on the crest of the US flag, there are 13 stars. They create a 6 pointed star. Now going to Satanism, which is equal to Saturnism. I am going to touch on a few things that might upset some people. I am not here to upset anyone. I'm not pointing a finger. I'm not judging. Nothing. I'm basically giving you information so you can piece all of this together. That's all that I'm doing, so please don't take this to heart. So per Fritz Springmeier, he's an author, he states the city of Rome was originally known as Saturnia, or City of Saturn. The Roman Catholic Church retains much of the Saturn worship in its rituals. The remains of the Temple of Saturn in Rome are not far from Capitoline Hill, which is Mons Saturnus, the Hill of Saturn, so named for the human skull found there, also known as Calgary, the Hill of the Skull. This is why the center of US government is called Capitol Hill, and I hope that you were able to make all those connections that I've just explained. Now, going back to the planet, on Saturn, at the North Pole, there is a permanent storm there which takes the form of a hexagon. By the way, it was found, all this information was found and transmitted back to the Earth by the Cassini craft and one of the Voyagers. Now, what is a hexagon? It's a hexagram. And what is a hexagram? A 6-pointed star. And what is a star? When you pop it out and it becomes 3D, it's cube. It's a cube. So when it's in 3D form, it is actually a cube. Kronos, he's depicted as Saturn in astrology, had a white beard. He was the controller of time, which then became Father Time, which then he was known as the Grim Reaper. Saturn is the son of death, and also symbolized as a crown. As you remember, all the symbolism of Saturn is usually a circle above, the crest that I've talked to you about, the winged goddesses that have the circle above their head. They're known as the crown. And what is a crown? Symbolic of the royal bloodlines. And if you've watched my Paranormal or Not series, what the bloodline means, really. Doesn't mean that you're special, and doesn't mean that you're a special human. The bloodline most definitely has a specific meaning, and is definitely not that you're better than anybody else on the planet. What are the colors of Saturn? Black and red. What does Saturn astrologically rule? They rule religion, banking, politics, corporations, law and court systems, and science. It is plastered all over those areas. Now, again, this is going to be a little touchy, and so I hope that you can hear this information and make connections. Just be open to the information. Please don't take it to heart, and try to. I want to inform you, and I'm saying this because it made me feel some type of way, so I'm pretty sure it will make you feel some type of way too. But Santa, what does Santa have? He has a white beard, and he is an anagram, unfortunately, of Satan. He is a symbol for Saturnalia. Have you ever heard of Saturnalia? Because I had never heard of Saturnalia before I started looking into all this information, and I didn't believe it until I kept finding the same definition. This was a festival in Rome where they worshipped the god Saturn. This is the same time period to the run-up of Christmas, and they gave gifts and decorated trees and hung holly. Now, I'm going to interject here. I've just told you that, the tree and holly and all of that is pretty much paganistic worship. But this is where I have to stop and say what I believe. And I believe that Jesus Christ, he was the one, he is, for me, he is as true as this camera is in front of me. I believe that he was sent to help us because, let me tell you, the earth is in a very bad place right now with Saturn and the moon and what they mean, what they're projecting onto the earth, and what is happening right now with it energetically, frequency-wise and spiritually. We are in a very bad situation, and until the day I die, until Jesus Christ himself wants to explain to me specifically who he is and what his real name is and how he came about to create the beautiful consciousness that we call souls. I do believe that he was interjected and put into the mix and kind of put up side by side with Santa because they wanted to keep that paganistic ritual going. They wanted to keep that frequency and that energy and that symbolism alive. And yeah, that was just my opinion, so let me continue. So the Gnostics say the Archons. In Islam, they're called the Jinn. So I'm focusing on the Archons, and just to give you an example, the Jinn, in Islam, that's what they connect Archons to. They can make us see what is not there. And if you are from the Middle East or you know anything about genies, you know exactly that they are not good. They are not good at all. So Archons, what are Archons? I don't normally talk about them, but Archons are types of collective unconscious forces. And what are we? But consciousness. They are unconscious forces with the intention of keeping humanity asleep in the darkness of fear, ignorance, and hatred. And that is all the earth is all about. Here in New York, just as an example of how they, again, blatantly put their symbolism for all to see. They laugh in our faces because they know exactly who's in control. Here in New York at Ground Zero, the subway station, there are multiple evil eyes. If you go on the platform, you see all these eyes all around the platform, and on the ground is a map of the world. And what is on top of the map of the world? It looks like broadcast lines. They look like what you would see if you see on a radar, when something on the radar and it blips and you see all those lines. That's what that depicts. if you know anything about the information I'm telling you, if you've seen my paranormal or not videos, you will know, like, my gosh, if you are able to read their secret little, which they think are secret because they're not secret anymore. People are being able to read exactly what they mean with the garbage that they have all around, with the black cubes and the evil eyes and all of that ridiculousness. But yeah, that's what they have there. So physicists say soon they may have evidence to prove that the world is a complete simulation. We have been hacked, so to speak, and we are living a fake reality. The hack is being controlled by Saturn, and the broadcast is being encoded into our frequency range, and therefore we are decoding this cheap knockoff reality. Come through. Now, when Cassini and Voyager 1 and 2 were up there, they recorded the immense, reverberating, ear-splitting sounds from Saturn. So going back to his book and the machinery that he has found to be making those circles around Saturn, what do you think they're doing? What do you think these Archons are doing? They're behind that force. Why do you think there's a star on the North Pole of Saturn generating this gigantic storm to generate those vehicles? You think they're doing that for nothing? You think they're generating all that power and electricity and wasting their time for nothing? No, they are reflecting all of that energy towards Earth and the moon. So the moon is basically a backup generator for Saturn, because, you know, hey, a planet size of 365 Earths couldn't possibly get the job done. Let's stick a moon that we shouldn't even have in our orbit, let's stick that close to the Earth and, you know, kind of make sure that everyone stays exactly where they should be. And let's keep the farce going. That's what these Archons are doing, and that's what they don't want you to know. That's why Arthur Bergman's book, you can't buy it. You have to, you know, search for it and find it, and I had to download it in PDF form. Yeah. The sound waves are rings which create circular waves. So all of that horrific noise coming from Saturn, that's what it's doing. It's creating waves. It creates the frequencies which lead us to form symbols of that frequency. This is why certain symbols throughout antiquity haven't changed and hold such power. The Earth is being bombarded every moment of every day by Saturn's frequency and amplified by the Earth's moon. Visually, and we're being visually stimulated by all the symbolism in our reality. Now, before the Great Cataclysm, which is the deluge of water, Noah's Ark story, Saturn did not have rings and the Archons were not in complete control. So yeah, we are in dire straits, like dire straits. And I wanted to do this video because I wanted to piece the information together in as layman terms as I could, so you can see what is going on right now, what they perpetuate, what is happening, and it's like a pyramid. You've got the Archons that no one ever sees because they are the ones behind these invisible hands. Okay, so you've got those Archons, you've got the invisible hands, then it starts with royalty, all those royal people and all those people in control. And then you've got those that are second in command to all those royal people. They are the ones who know exactly what's going on. And you are on the bottom. We are the grass on the bottom of that gigantic pyramid. And they want to keep us this way. They want to keep us asleep. They want to keep us fighting. They want to keep us hating. They want to keep all their symbolism out in the open. They want us to continue the paganistic rituals. They want us to, without knowing it, because we're not knowing it. And I'm not saying for you to go and rip your Christmas trees out and throw them away, because I think that most people who have Christmas trees, they mean it in such a heartfelt and good way. But you have to know where these things come from, and you have to know what it's based in. I vaguely remember hearing about these things and just, that's nothing. I condemned it. I said, no way. I said, it's not true. And lo and behold, it's in history. Saturnalia, that's what you celebrate for Christmas? No way. Not celebrating that anymore, especially when it has nothing to do with Jesus. Has nothing to do with him. But anyway, I'm getting kind of upset, so this is the end of my video, guys. Again, my intention was to piece together all this information for you and hopefully awaken one or two of you. And until my next video, please make good spiritual decisions, and I will see you in my next video.